Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tabi'ahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin. Amma ba'd, fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Today I would like to talk about a topic which is commonly known by most of the Muslims because of our traditional understanding of the story and our discussion within Islamic circles about the son of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, who was sacrificed or slaughtered for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It would seem awkward for many of you to hear what I'm going to say. As I just mentioned that I like to try to support the underdogs, so maybe I will give a little bit more attention to the second opinion than the opinion which you have heard throughout your childhood. Most of you must have heard that the Zabih, or the son who was slaughtered, was Sayyidina Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam. And mashallah, many of the Muslim scholars, they do support the idea of Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam being the sacrificed son. But I really feel that we need to know the other side of the story also, that within the Muslim scholarship, there is strong opposition to that point of view. There's a great number of Muslim scholars who have somehow believed that the sacrificed son was Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam and not Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam. Why I want to discuss this topic? Because when I was talking in the khutbah yesterday, and when next week I'm going to talk about the covenant of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, there's a lot of discussion among the Jews and among the Christians that the covenant has come to Judaism and through Judaism to Christianity through the lineage of Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam, because they believe that they are the children of Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam. So if covenant does not come through Ishaaq, then somehow for them it's a big deal. So very often the Muslim scholars, they insist that the covenant of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam has come through Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam, because Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam was the Zabih. But when we argue with our Jewish brothers and sisters or Christian brothers and sisters, sometimes they bring the text, the nusus, from our own books. Authorities like Abdullah ibn Masu'd, Sahabi, Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. From the Tabi'in, some of the very known Tabi'in. And then even among the scholars or Mufassirin like Ibn Jari'r al-Tabari. Now these scholars, they insisted that there is nothing in the Qur'an or nothing in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam which will clearly indicate that it is Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam who was sacrificed. But you will see in the later Mufassirin, especially people like Ibn Kathir, rahmatullah alayh, and some of the others, who insist that no, it's not Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam, it is Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam. So the predominant opinion among the Muslims right now is that it is Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam and it is not Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam. Let me ask you these questions. How many of you have heard the other side of the story? Did anybody hear that it is from Islamic perspective Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam and not Isma'il?
From the Jewish, from the Christian point, it is Ishaq.
You have heard it from the Jews, but from Islamic perspective, I really feel that we need to know both sides of the story so that we do not look like fool when somebody brings those arguments from Islamic text and Islamic resources. Let me ask you also, how many of you have read the Genesis story of Isma'il and Ishaq or Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam? Anybody? You have read it. So I think I should go back and refer to both of them. I would say that from the Qur'anic perspective, Qur'an has never identified any of the sons of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam as the sacrificed son. There's no clear-cut text in the Qur'an which would say either Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam or Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam was the one who was slaughtered by Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. And I would say it's the context of the Qur'an which really leads sometime that it could be Isma'il alayhi salatu wassalam and it could be Ishaaq alayhi salatu wassalam. But I would say it is the matter of preference of the Mufassir. It's the direction he is taking which can be helped through the context itself. There's nothing clear-cut which can be said, no, it is authentically Ishaaq alayhi salatu wassalam or it is authentically Isma'il alayhi salatu wassalam. Same thing happens with the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If you look into the riwayat which have come to us through Sahaba ridwanullah alayhim ajma'in or through the Tabi'in, you will say almost 31 talk about Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam being the slaughtered son, and 30, I would say closer to 30 riwayat, they talk about Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam being the son who was slaughtered. So the authentic Sahaba, the Jayyid Sahaba are on both sides. Abdullah ibn Masu'd, Ibn Abbas on one side, Abdullah ibn Omar on one side, Ali radiallahu ta'ala on one side. And so it's very different and very difficult to come up with a consensus. And remember one thing, when something is not consensus among the Muslims, you cannot say it is categorical. It is Qata'i. Because even if one scholar differs, there's a difference of opinion even among one Tabi'i or one of the known Mufassir, you cannot call it ijma. And how could you call something consensus or ijma if there are 31 opinions on this side and 30 opinions on the other side? So that's what you do is you go back to the text of the Qur'an and then you analyze the text to figure out which direction the text is taking you. Number one. Number two, it's easier for Muslims to prove from the Old Testament, from the Bible, that the slaughtered son could have been Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam and not Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam. Because the age-wise, Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam is the first one. He was blessed to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam when Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was 86 years of age. Book of Genesis and chapter is 16, verse number 16. Genesis 16:16. It says Ibrahim was 86 years old when Hagar bore him Ishmael. So how old was Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam when he was blessed with Ismail? 86 years. In Genesis 21, verse number 5. Genesis 21, verse number 5, it says, Abraham was 100 years old when his son Ishaaq was born to him. So how old was Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam? 100 years of age when he was blessed with Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam. Which means Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam was almost 14 years when Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam was given birth to Sayyida Sarah alayhi salatu wasalam. Also, the Bible tells us that God told to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam that you take your only son and slaughter him. This is one statement. In the other statement, which is Genesis 22, verse number 1 and 2, it says, after these things, God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, here I am. He said, take your son, comma, your only son Ishaaq or Isaac, whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah and offer him there as a burnt offering upon one of the mountains of which I shall tell you. So over there, take your only son. And then Muslims, sometimes they believe and they say that your only son Ishaq was the later interpolation. Because God told him in the other part of the Bible that you take your only son without mentioning the name of Ishaq. So who is the only son? The only son is Ismail, who has been blessed to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam after 86 years of longing for a son. It does not make sense that God gives him another son after 100 and asks him to slaughter that one, while the son whom he has loved and cared for 13 years and have got close attachment to is with him. So sacrifice will not make sense if it is the sacrifice of the second son. Am I clear? So the only son could be Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam, and that sacrifice makes sense because he was blessed with a son after 86 years of age, so he is so close to him, so attached to him, that sacrificing him or slaughtering him would take a lot from him. Am I clear? So when it comes to the biblical proof, with the addition of the only son, Ishaaq, the only son, the word Ishaq is added, the other proof can take us closer to Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam than to Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. So therefore, I am not worried to prove it to the Christians or to the Jews, but I want to do the justice to the Qur'anic text itself, or to the text of the ahadith or the reports from Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. When it comes to the son of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, or the sacrifice of a son, there are 3 ayahs of the Qur'an mentioned in 3 different places of the Qur'an. The most detailed account of the sacrifice is given in Surah Safat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that when Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, he went and he demolished the idols, then they decided to what? Burn him. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that he said that inni zahibun ila rabbi sayahdi. I am leaving this town. I am going to go to my Lord and he is going to guide me. And at that time he says, Rabbi habli min as-salihin. Ya Allah, bless me with a righteous son. So if you look into the context, he has just made the practical demonstration of da'wah by crushing the idols. He has been forced out of his town. He is leaving فَآمَنَ لَهُ لُوطٌ قَالَ إِنِّي مُهَاجِرٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي. That there is only one person who has believed in him, which is Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, who is his nephew. So Lut alayhi salatu wasalam, his wife Sarah, and Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, they are the one who leave the town, the area where he is born and where he is raised. That's where he makes the dua, Rabbi habli min as-salihin. Ya Allah, bless me with a righteous son. And then the Quran says, فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. As a result of his dua, because fa is lit-ta'qib, as a result, as the consequences of his dua, we gave him the glad tidings of a forbearing son. بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. Now Quran says, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ, and as a result of that bashara, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ, when this son reached to the age of teenage, you can say, the age of sa'i, working, فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ إِنِّي أَرَى فِي الْمَنَامِ أَنِّي أَذْبَحُ فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى. He said to that son that, O my beloved son, I in my dream see you slaughtering or sacrifice. Inni asbahu. Fanzur maza tara. See what is your opinion about this issue. Qala ya aba tif'al ma tu'mar tajiduni insha'Allahu min as-sabirin. He says, O dad, do whatever you have been commanded to do, and you will find me among the people who are sabirin. One point here. Sometimes this question comes to our mind that Ibrahim ﷺ did not get a direct command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not the wahi. He sees something in the dream. And how come he just goes by the dream and is ready to act upon an act which is so horrendous, like slaughtering one's only son? But don't forget that Ru'yal Anbiya is Sadiqa. That the dreams, Yarhamukallah, the dreams of the prophets, they are always true. So when Ibrahim ﷺ is given the ishara even in the dream, he takes it seriously, because even though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not commanded him directly, he takes even the ishara of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so seriously that he is willing to what? Sacrifice his son, even upon the insinuation, upon the ishara. So what happens, sometimes the isharat in the dreams could be messages. And sometimes some people will take it very seriously, and especially the Anbiya or the saints or some of the people, because it is indirect kind of wahi to them. It is intuition, ilham. Second thing, because the Quranic terminology is so beautiful sometimes when we just reflect upon the depth of that. Ya aba tif'al ma tu'mar. He says Ya bunayya, because the word Ya bunayya is so much intimate. Oh my beloved son. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the word Ya bunayya? He could have used Yibni, oh my son. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to show that Ibrahim ﷺ is not short of love for his son. He is not slaughtering him out of his hatred. He loves him the most. Ya bunayya. He has been blessed with that son after 87, 86 years of age. How could he not love? He's not inhumane. He loves him, but he prefers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love over the love of the son. And now the son is not hating the dad. He does not take him as a crazy nut. What do you think? You are going to kill me? I'll go and call the police on you. This is what happens nowadays. But he says, Ya abad. He does not say Ya abi. Ya abba tif'al ma tu'mar. Oh my beloved father, the word is if'al ma tu'mar. Do whatever you have been commanded. The son figures out that my father is not a crazy one. He must have been ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's where he says, if'al ma tu'mar. He does not say, do whatever you feel like or what comes to your mind. He has known that his father is a prophet, and the prophets do not do things in vain unless they are ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If'al ma tu'mar. Satajiduni insha'Allahu min as-sabirin. Now, it's not a teenager who is just boasting, oh, don't worry, I'll be. But when it comes to his own self, he says, insha'Allah. It tells you that it's hard for him to go through this experience. But what he says is that if God willing, he is not putting it upon himself. Satajiduni insha'Allahu min as-sabirin. فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَنْ يَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا إِنَّا كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ وَتَرَكْنَا عَلَيْهِ فِي الْآخِرِينَ سَلَامٌ عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. After that, what happens? فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِإِسْحَاقَ نَبِيًّا مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ. Okay. وَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِإِسْحَاقَ نَبِيًّا. Even wow. Wow is the sequence, because whatever is happening, wow is connecting it with the previous. In the other one, it is فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ or بِغُلَامٍ عَلِيمٍ. That is far over there. As a result of that, فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ عَلِيمٍ. I'll come and explain that ayah also. Anyhow, this is happening, and Ibrahim ﷺ is slaughtering. Then the son is replaced with a lamb, and the result is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I give you the bashara that I will make Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam what? Nabi. فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِإِسْحَاقَ نَبِيًّا وَبَارَكْنَا عَلَيْهِ وَعَلَى إِسْحَاقَ. That we put the barakah upon him and upon Ishaq. وَمِن ذُرِّيَّتِهِمَا مُحْسِنٌ وَظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ مُبِينٌ. And from both of their children and progeny, we make some righteous and some zalim. Now this is the text which talks about the acts of sacrifice, and this is the one which gives you the context on which most of the scholars have disagreed. One point of view is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the dhabha of the son, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam when he leaves his homeland. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the bashara, that I will bless you with a son. Now, as a result of his sacrifice, the bashara is given that I will make him the prophet. So the name and the context makes it clear that who is the Zabih is Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam. Am I clear here? Is the point clear? The other school of thought, people like Ibn Kathir rahmatullah alayhi, some of the other Sahaba, they believe that number one, as Bible says, that Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam was the first son who was blessed to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam as he was 86. Quran does not say that. Quran does not say that whether Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam was first or Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam was first. Am I clear? The Quran just talks about فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ or بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ. Second thing, Bible also says that Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam was blessed to him when he was 100. So the Quranic perspective to them is that when Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam was slaughtered or sacrificed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted that sacrifice, and as a result gave Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam the glad tidings that you were thinking to lose even one, I will give you another one. وَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِإِسْحَاقٍ, and not only I will give you the son, I will make him a prophet and prophets from his progeny. Am I clear? Now, if you look into the context, I'm talking about the context. Context does not say either way that as a result of that I will give you the son, which is second one. It is going in a sequence. Things are happening in a sequence. رَبِّ هَبْ لِي مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ or إِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينَ رَبِّ هَبْ لِي مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِغُلَامٍ حَلِيمٍ فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ. There's no breakdown. And the bashara with the name of Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam in that context makes it a little bit more, I would say, lean towards Ishaaq alayhi salatu wasalam being the Zabih, of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, Zabih Allah. Now, the stronger argument, which is the argument for Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam, is from the other portion which is in Surah Hud. قالت يا ويلتا أألد وأنا عجوز وهذا بعلي شيخا إن هذا لشيء عجيب. Go to Surah Hud and ayah number 69. Do you have copy of the Quran? وَلَقَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُنَا إِبْرَاهِيمَ بِالْبُشْرَى. And our messengers, they came to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَتْ رُسُلُنَا. And our messengers, they came to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam bil-bushra, with the glad tidings, with the bashara. قَالُوا salama. They said to him, peace be unto you. قَالَ salamun. And he said, peace be unto you. فَمَا لَبِثَ أَنْ جَاءَ بِعِجْلٍ حَنِيذٍ. He rushed and brought a calf to slaughter for them. فَلَمَّا رَأَى أَيْدِيَهُمْ لَا تَصِلُ إِلَيْهِ. When he saw that their hands are not touching it, نَكِرَهُمْ. He got scared. وَأَوْجَسَ مِنْهُمْ خِيفَةً. And in his own self, what happens when somebody's guest come, and if they don't eat from you, they are considered enemies, because only the enemy will not eat from your food. So when he felt that they are not touching the food, he felt, قَالُوا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّا أُرْسِلْنَا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِ لُوطٍ. They said, don't fear, because we have been sent to the nation of Lut alayhi salatu wasalam. وَامْرَأَتُهُ قَائِمَةٌ. Now remember one thing, this cannot happen in Egypt. This cannot happen in Egypt. This cannot happen in Mecca, because Lut alayhi salatu wasalam is living where? Sodom and Gomorrah, which is closer to Jerusalem. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam dies or lives where? In Al-Khalil, closer to Jerusalem. So when this Bashara is coming, where is Ibrahim ﷺ located? He is located somewhere closer to Jerusalem, in Palestine. Inna ursilna ila qawmi Lut wamratuhu qa'ima. And his wife was standing, fadahikat, and she laughed. Fabasharnaha bi Ishaq, and we gave her the glad tidings of what? Ishaq. Wa min wara'i Ishaqa Yaqub, and after Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam, we gave her the glad tidings of who? Yaqub. Qalat ya waylata, she said, woe unto me, a'alidu wa ana ajuz, I will give birth and I am such an old lady. Wa hadha ba'li shaykha, and my husband has become old, buddha hai. Inna haza la shay'un ajib, this is something very strange. So the whole dialogue is taking place when Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam is with Sarah alayhi salatu wasalam in Palestine and not in the vicinity of Makkah. And second thing, the Bashara is explained over here. Whose Bashara is given to Sayyidina Ibrahim? Of Ishaq. There's nothing in the Qur'an in which it talks about the Bashara of Isma'il, but the Bashara of Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam is what? Clear. So when
he was already there, Isma'il.
Pardon?
Because he was already there, Isma'il. That's why the Bashara.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, I agree with that one, that it could be that Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam was already there. But when I'm talking about when he says, Rabbi habli min as-salihin, fabasharnahu bi ghulamin halim, we gave him the Bashara of Ghulam Halim. The only explanation in the Quran is Basharat Ishaq. It is our understanding that Ismail ﷺ was already there. But the explanation of that Bashara, which Quran says, Rabbi habli min as-salihin, Bashara is explained here, فَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِإِسْحَاقَ نَبِيًّا مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ over there. And here, فَبَشَّرْنَاهَا بِإِسْحَاقَ وَمِنْ وَرَاءِ إِسْحَاقَ Yaqub. I'm just explaining that Bashara, which is given in that context. The Bashara is explained, that Bashara is the Bashara of Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. Now, this is the strongest argument for Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam also. But Ibn Kathir, actually this argument was started by Imam al-Suhaili. And then Ibn Kathir has picked it up. What he says is that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have asked Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam to sacrifice Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam, then it does not make sense that before his birth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him that I will bless you Ishaq, and after Ishaq I will bless you Yaqub, and he is asking him to slaughter him in teenage. If Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam knows that he's going to be slaughtered, how could he, fulfill the Bashara of having Yaqub after Ishaq? Am I clear? Is it clear or not? If, yeah.
Just one question. I understand your explanation. It doesn't make sense to say, because here in the Quran it says, "Alidu ana ajuzan wa hada bali shaykhan." This sentence you would expect, that somebody would say it on the first son, not on the second son, because the first son, she was also, old, and her husband was old too, on the first son. Now, so if this is happening on the first son, she would say that, but then on the second son,
no.
It would repeat the same thing.
Remember one thing. Remember, Sayyidah Hajara was not old. She was young. It was old. This is Sarah, Sayyidah Sarah.
Okay. I got confused between.
Yes. Sayyidah Hajara was young and Sayyidina Ibrahim was 86. But Sayyidah Sarah was old and Sayyidina Ibrahim is old. So this is in context of Sayyidah Sarah and not, Sayyidah Hajara number. This is the strongest argument from the Quran, that it could have not been Ishaq, it could be Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. Why? Because if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving him Bashara even before the birth of Sayyidina Ishaq, that I'll bless you with Ishaq, and after Ishaq I will bless you with who? Yaqub alayhi salatu wasalam, and I'll make from their children prophets, Then when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells him, slaughter him, it's not a big deal, because in the back of his mind, he knows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to replace, and preserve Ishaaq, because he has to bless him with children. And how could he bless him with children and prophethood while he is being slaughtered at the end of teenage? Am I clear? This is what is the Qur'anic proof, which Ibn Kathir and the rest of the scholars, they have taken, that it could have not been Ishaaq, it must have been Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam. Yes.
So where does this connect to slaughter?
Okay, because what he says is that here it says that I will bless you with Ishaaq, and after Ishaaq, Yaqub. So if Ishaaq was supposed to be slaughtered while he is teenager, not married yet, not have Yaqub, then Ibrahim ﷺ would have not have the sense of sacrifice, because at the back of his mind he will remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me the bashara that I will bless you with Ishaaq and grandchildren from him.
But they are just there and going towards Qawm and Lut, and that's the context.
Mm-hmm.
And they came to him and they're talking about that. There's no talk about slaughter.
No, we are not talking about slaughter here. Because Quran supports each other. Quran does not come with a full story. The Quran just comes with that part of the story which is relevant to the context in which the ayah is being revealed. So here it is just talking about the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the glad tidings of Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. Now over there it says that when he was blessed with the first son, and the son reached to the age of puberty, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam to slaughter him. So the son who is being slaughtered is teenage, and it does not make sense. Now we are connecting that ayah with this ayah, that does not make sense, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam the glad tidings that I will bless you with Ishaq, and I'll bless you after Ishaq with Yaqub, and make both of them prophets. So if he asks him to slaughter Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam, while Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam is a teenage, in the back of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam is that God has already promised me that he's going to make old, get married, blessed with the children, and have the responsibility of prophethood. So that sacrifice will not make sense, because he knows he cannot be killed. Am I clear? Now is the argument clear?
Yes.
Is it clear?
But is there any place in...
Is the argument clear or not?
I have not gotten the reason for Ishaq being the Zabih and not the Ismail being the... Because what you are explaining is that it's Ismail who is doing...
I explained the first part first, and now I'm giving the other opinion, and then I'll come back and conclude with my opinion.
Okay.
The opinion which I gave about Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam, I said, this is from Surat Safat. Surat Safat makes it clearer that the son who has been blessed to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam is the son who is given the glad tidings about when Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam leaves Ur. Because he breaks the idols, they try to kill him. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam says, Inni muhajirun ila Rabbi, I am going to my Lord. He makes the dua. At that time, Hajra is not there. They are still in Iraq and leaving towards Syria. So he makes the dua, Rabbi habli min as-salihin, Ya Allah, bless me with a son. So when the glad tidings comes, it is also at that time, before he goes to Egypt. He has not even settled. So when he is blessed with the glad tidings of the son, it is what? Ishaq. Because Sarah is with him, not Hajra. Now, the context says when he became the age of puberty, at that time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to slaughter him. So he did, and then the Quran says, وَبَشَّرْنَاهُ بِإِسْحَاقَ نَبِيًّا مِنَ الصَّالِحِينَ, that when he got done with the slaughtering, we gave him the glad tidings of Ishaq to be the Prophet. So what I was saying is that in that context, the place, the companions of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, the place of slaughter, and the name of Ishaaq, all three of them. There's no mention of Hajra, there's no mention of Isma'il, there's no mention of Makkah, Hijrah to Makkah. So everything is happening in the context of Sayyidina Hajra, Sayyidina Ibrahim, and Sayyidina Ishaaq. So from that context, it makes it more plausible that it could have been Sayyidina Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam. Then I came and I gave the opinion of the other group of people who say, no, even from that context, you cannot say it is Ishaq, it could be Isma'il, because Isma'il is the first one who is blessed to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, and there's no argument from the Qur'an which proves that one. But that proof is taken from the Bible. The Bible says he was 86 when he was blessed with Isma'il. So he is blessed with Isma'il, and when Isma'il is 14 years of age, as Bible says, he was 100 when he was blessed with Ishaq. So he was 13 years of age before Ishaq was blessed to him. So that is the age of puberty. فَلَمَّا بَلَغَ مَعَهُ السَّعْيَ. That's where Ibrahim ﷺ sees the dream, and he says to Isma'il, let me slaughter you. And when he gets done with that one, as a reward of that, what we call sacrifice or qurbani, you can call it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses him with the bashara that I will bless you with another son who will be prophet, so you have not lost one, you will get the other one too. So they interpret that one in that context, and then they substantiate that one with this ayah. So that's where I'm explaining right now, that this one gives the context that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he blessed Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam with the bashara of Ishaq alayhi salatu wasalam, he not only gave him the bashara of Ishaq, wa min wara Ishaqa Yaqub. He told him that I will bless you with Ishaq, and I will bless you after him with Yaqub. Now Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam knows from the very beginning that he has been blessed with Ishaq, and Ishaq is going to grow old, get married, and then have the son who is going to be also a prophet, Ishaq and Yaqub. So therefore, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks him to sacrifice, and he knows my son is going to live, so it does not make sense. Then there's no sacrifice. He knows, even if I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking me and he's going to make me Khalil after that, but he's going to save my son, and I just, mashallah, will have the courage to. But the pain comes when I know, yes, I am slaughtering my son. And that is clear. فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَنْ يَا إِبْرَاهِيمِ. So there is a lot of pain going on in the life of Sayyidina Ibrahim when he's doing it, but he's doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, from this context, this is the only ayah which can make stronger case for Sayyidina Isma'il alayhi salatu wasalam, that the sacrifice will not make sense if Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam already knew that Ishaq was going to be blessed with Yaqub and things like that. Now, come back to Surah Al-Hijr. Ayah number is going to be 51. Surah Al-Hijr, ayah number 51. You got it? Everybody got it? Okay. وَنَبِّهُمْ عَنْ ضَيْفِ Ibrahim, and give them the news about the guests of Ibrahim. إِذْ دَخَلُوا عَلَيْهِ فَقَالُوا سَلَامًا. When they entered upon him and they said, peace be unto you. قَالَ إِنَّا مِنْكُمْ وَجِلُونَ. He said, we are afraid of you. قَالُوا لَا تَوْجَلْ. They said, do not get scared. إِنَّا نُبَشِّرُكَ بِغُلَامٍ عَلِيمٍ. We are here to give you the glad tidings of a young man, Ghulam, who is going to be knowledgeable. قَالَ أَبَشَّرْتُمُونِي عَلَىٰ أَمَّ السَّنِيَ الْكِبَرُ فَبِمَا تُبَشِّرُونَ. He said, you want to give me the glad tidings, knowing that I, massani al-kibr, I have become an old man. فَبِمَا What kind of glad tidings are you giving me? قَالُوا بَشَّرْنَاكَ بِالْحَقِّ فَلَا تَكُمْ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ. They said, we have given you the glad tidings, which is true, but don't be among the people who are despaired or disappointed.